Mouz Sports' turn to pick.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Starladder Season 8, Day 14 coverage here on Beyond the Summit. It's been a weird day with only 3 games and a 2-hour break in between games 1 and 2. But alas, we are here at our final third match of the day. Flipside RU here going to be facing off against Mouz Sports. Should be a good one. We'll see how they fare against Mouz here. They did have a rough game 2. Against Sigma, but well, we'll see how they do. I'm Zayori. With me once again is Merlini, and we are casting off of the Dota TV ticket. Apologize for that, but well, shit happens. So Merlini, last game of the day. What's the good word here?
Just waiting for Flipside to pick. They went with an Alchemist first pick last game. I don't think they'll go back to the Shadow Demon. That just did not work out too well for them, and it didn't seem like they had to really practice it that much. And it seems like they might have picked Potom early to deny Sigma, as you said. They were certainly more incentivized to do so. So we'll see what they go for this game. Mouz, not really known for running anything. They did have this like stint with a support Kunkka on crit, but aside from that, I don't really think they have any particular strategies or heroes that they like to run way more often than other teams.
Yeah. They tend to do those pretty just well-rounded rosters. And it's still interesting, though, to see that Venomancer first banned. I guess I'm sort of implying that he's a garbage tier support now, which is not really my intention, but I'm just surprised the teams seem to value him still so highly. I think that'll continue to fall off over time, but alas, Mouz don't want to play against him. They're going to grab Bristleback as their second pick, and Flipside will open up with a pretty standard Visage Clockwork. Nothing too crazy.
5 seconds remaining.
Too crazy here. We did see Mouz Sports when they beat out Alliance. They did use a Bristleback in the off lane, and I forget what their other lineup was, but I remember the Bristleback was very important to their lineup. So just going with what works.
Yeah, absolutely. Last match, unfortunately, Bristleback didn't work so well for Flipside, but there were a lot of other factors in that match as well. Still really curious about that Juggernaut Omni Slash with the Bristleback passive. That's one. I don't know how you could go about testing that. I guess in practice mode you could play around with it, but hard to crunch the numbers on those.
They have the combat log though.
I guess. Oh, that's right. The combat log.
I know. It's so good, and even though I don't use it that often.
Yeah, I don't either. But I brought it up at the end of the last game, but I saw your MMR is, for ranked matchmaking, is like 5337, I think was in that screenshot you posted. And I looked it up, man. That's like ridiculously high percentile. The stuff that Valve had posted, I think they said like 99 percentile was something like 4300, and you're a full 1000 ahead of that. Is that right? Did you go 10-0 in your opening games?
I went 9-1. That's close.
Okay. It's like if you're really that high percentile, man, just retire undefeated. Like, jeez, 5,300. That's really
I think a lot
high.
of the other pro players or ex-pro players have above 5,000 too, so it's not completely far-fetched. But I mean, it's a large player base. 1% isn't even that much of what 6.5 million. Yeah. So you're still looking at 65,000 players for top 1%.
Yeah.
And then at TI you had what 16 teams, I believe.
Yeah.
I guess 18 teams technically, so like 90 players or 80, 90 players, and then that's not even, that's way less than 1%. So
yeah,
like their MMR has to be really high. So 65,000, and then the 1% of the 1% is only 650. So we're talking about TI attendees, and that's probably close to like 1,000th of the 1%. So we're looking at really small percentages. So I don't really know what the standard deviation is for their MMR, but I would assume that the really pro players have like above 55.
You just wiped the floor with my little bit of math. I basically just saw 99 percentile, 4,100, 5,300 is a lot more. Wow, Merlini's really good. That was like the extent of my math, and you just took it to a whole nother level. So
you can't forget how many people play this game. Yeah. There are so many people that play Dota.
Yeah. It's true. It's 500K people logged in. You're right. That top 1% still represents an absurd amount of people. But I started 3-0 in my solo matchmaking game, so I'm a little bit proud of myself, though I have to admit the competition was not too fierce. So, well, we'll see. I've had good luck in solo so far, though. I haven't tried party queuing yet.
Party!
Yeah. So more bans have come out here. Mal's going to ban out Luna and OD. And
are you surprised that Lich didn't get touched?
A little bit. Lich has really been less popular. He was one of those, like, at first glance, at 6.79, everyone was like, you know, Lich is insane. Look at all this experience he denies. But it seems more and more teams are just less eager to deal with the Lich. Because if your team starts to fall behind, his recovery just isn't quite there. He's not a big playmaker. I mean, Chain Frost is the randomness of it makes it less of a big playmaker if there's creeps around, and it's just too easy to deal with. You know, you never see those epic like 7 bounce Chain Frost, you know, ultra kill Liches. It takes 1 or 2 bounces, everybody spreads out, and then that's the end of it, and Lich runs away. It just seems like he doesn't really bring enough to the table. So I guess the short answer is no. I'm not surprised, because if you start to fall behind in the laning phase, he doesn't seem to have that recovery. I don't know. Do you disagree?
I think he's a safe support, as in if things go terribly wrong for you, he's still somewhat useful. Frost Armor is slightly underwhelming still, I think, just because of BKB and the nature of a lot of the carries nowadays. Like Bristleback, he doesn't really care about Frost Armor, right? He does so much damage without it. And just going down the normal list, like Gyrocopter, he doesn't really care. He just flags and he's just going to stand there. So it doesn't really matter. And he usually has BKB anyway. Lifesteal already has Rage. So I don't really think Frost Armor is that useful. I also think he's pretty useless versus BKB. All you get is some armor from Frost Armor, like whoop-de-doo. That's fantastic and all, but in terms of actually being able to do something against BKB, that's not that useful. But in terms of shutting opponents down and making them like think twice about their positioning, it's decent, but I guess not really ban-worthy or nerf-worthy. I think he does really combo well with people that can reposition, like Darkseer or Magnus, but that has kind of fallen out of style. I think if those heroes get back into the game, then Lich will be much, much more useful for the wombo combo potential.
Yeah, and looking at Dat Dota right now, and since 6.79, Lich has been picked in 205 competitive games, and his win percent is 49.8%. So I don't know. I think statistics, he's a break-even. You know, he's not a big playmaker. Lich is good. He can work into your lineup, but he's not that.
He's just bad. He's just really bad against the current picks, though. Like, Chain Frost versus Bristleback doesn't matter. Visage with his familiars, too, doesn't matter. Chen is also fairly popular, and Nature's Prophet. So there's still, like, a lot of summons and push and magic immune stuff going on. Like, the Visage familiars can just tank it, which is really stupid. I think they should just nerf familiars, and then that would solve some of Lich's problems. But a lot of the heroes just don't care at all about the Chain Frost, and it's supposed to be a really potent ultimate. It does like what, 300 damage, 10 bounces. That's like 3,000 damage plus, if you can actually get it off. And it slows.
Yeah, I feel like it just moves too slow. That's part of its problem. I think that missile speed needs to be increased. I mean, that's a slippery slope of Lich going from terrible to really, not terrible, but not so great to really, really good. But it just seems too easy where that thing's chasing people down. It's just too easy to split and run away from, and you only see 1 or 2 bounces unless there's some other sort of wombo combo to set it up. And I mean, Lich with Enigma is really scary, but we almost never see that combo anymore.
Yeah, well, I think it's just like you have to pick fights in good places. Just like Magnus around the Roshan pit's absurd, because you'll get like 4-man RPs so easily because everyone's forced to clump. It's similar with Chain Frost. You just have to be really, really aware of when you cast it. You can't use it in the fight like very, very early because people will be expecting it. But once people like commit to an engagement, then you can probably use it. But I mean, there's only so much he can do with Lich, right? It's like, you know, and sacrifice is kind of useless late game. I have mixed feelings about the hero. I still think he's useful. He's definitely better than an average support.
Yes, I would certainly. But
he's not top tier.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And it's just less. It seems really less and less teams are making it happen with Lich. But some interesting picks here. We see Slark picked up by Mouz, so that's a bit exciting. Flip side with a more straightforward roster. They've got Lifestealer, Storm Spirit combo, a pretty classic surprise inside vehicle for the old Lifestealer. And they're going to last pick the Nyx Assassin. But I'm a little surprised by the Mouz final ban. Ancient Apparition. Whoa.
Ancient Apparition. That is interesting, to say the least. It's bad. I guess it's good versus Slark.
How so? What makes him particularly good against Slark?
He can't regen back during fights.
Oh, okay.
That's like very, very, very minor.
Yeah, that's why I I guess that is technically a counter, but
5 seconds.
That's like the least of your worries as a Slark. You can just kill the AA.
Exactly. That has nothing to do with that essence shift. That's the part. I mean, yeah, Pounce is great, you know, this new ultimate, but I think the essence shift is what's really, really crazy. After we saw that game where Loda played him, and we saw at the end when he had like plus 150 agility or whatever, that was when I realized how ridiculous Slark can be once he gets a little bit of momentum. That was just insanity.
Yeah, it really was insanity.
Yeah.
It really was.
So Chen is going to be that final pick for Mouz. They've got a fairly well-rounded roster here. Probably going to be that DK mid, Chen in the jungle, Slark CM, off-lane Bristleback, something like that. And I guess it will be a support Nyx assassin for Flipside. Nyx Visage, yeah, Clockwork off-lane, tri-lane with the Life Stealer, Storm Spirit mid. Pretty straightforward on both sides, actually. But,
minus a Slark, I suppose.
Yeah. No Alchemist, though, this game. That is one outlier that, I think I've been using that word inappropriately. Outlier?
Outlier?
I think I've been using it in place of disparity, and they're not the same thing.
What was the context you just used it in?
I just said one of the outliers of this match is that Alchemist is not here.
Oh.
Is that right? I don't know.
It doesn't sound right.
Doesn't sound right? Yeah, I think I'm misusing that word. Anyway, still, Alchemist not going to be here. One of several things that stands out that neither side really. I don't think he was banned either. So neither side really valuing the old Alchemist unstable concoction that we've been talking about so much.
Yep. Unstable concoction is still really good. But I think Mouz just wants to try something out. This is usually a good time to try stuff out versus like worse teams. I think Mouz is favored like 3-1, 4-1 in this matchup. But I don't know. I think it's you don't get a good gauge of how good a hero is when you play subpar opponents. You need to play against competent opponents to see if it actually works in a real match, because there's no point in practicing against things if you're not going to use it versus real opponents. But we'll see how it fares. I guess it's still decent to experiment in some cases. They're also running it as a carry, which is the same thing that Alliance did. I've seen Miggle on Sigma play it very, very often as the offlaner. So I wonder if Slark is going to be the new carry or he's going to run as the offlaner. I think he does like okay without items, but with a really long cooldown on Shadow Dance now, he might have to shift the rules now because he can't just bounce in and out of fights. You really have to get a lot of damage on, a lot of essence shift stolen, perhaps even a kill during Shadow Dance, and you just can't do that with the farm of an offlaner.
Yeah. I think he's okay in that one position in kind of a tri-lane as long as you have someone aggressive with you. I don't think he works well in that passive farm fest one position, but if you can set up an aggressive tri-lane and pick up a kill or two, even if before he hits level 6, then you know, he works well, because he just such a great carry for an aggressive tri-lane. Is if you have one sure stun, it's a pretty sure thing you're going to connect with the pounce, and then after that you can essence shift, and if you can't kill him within that amount of time, I don't know what you're doing. So I think he works well in that position, but yeah, I agree. In the off lane, not so powerful. Maybe a solo safe lane with an aggressive tri lane in the long lane he could work well in, where we've seen Bristleback a number of times. But we'll see here. So some interesting laning coming out from Flipside RU. They are going to put Lifestealer solo mid, so that means down at the bottom it is going to be a position 1 Storm Spirit tri laning here, and Light going to be on the Storm Spirit. It will be supported by Visage, playing by Sheasley. And that also going to be supported by Book on the Nyx Assassin. S7 going to be on the Lifestealer up against the Dragon Knight and a solo mid. We'll talk about that in just a moment, as Afterlife going to be on the Clockwork in the top lane. On the side of Mouz, of course, they are Dire Unicorn going to be on Slark in the safe lane. Crit going to be supporting him on the Crystal Maiden. And Rise going to be in the Dire Jungle on that Chen. Dragon Knight going to be played by Exist. And in that off lane, Ace going to be on the Bristleback in the solo long lane. But talk about this mid a little bit. Dragon Knight versus Lifestealer. That is not a mid matchup we're used to seeing.
In Lifestealer mid sometimes. I've seen him versus OD, I believe, and I've seen him in pubs versus Pudge, which he does pretty well versus. But in terms of competitive matches, what happened up there? Well,
I caught the very tail end of it, but it looks like Slark just pounced on in, used an essence shift, and that was the end of Clockwork. I actually totally missed it as well. I caught
there were no supports around him, so I was like, well, that's not gonna happen. Well, anyways, Afterlife not getting off to a good start, very similar to what happened last game. Radiant side off lane, and he just dies very, very early. But Lifestealer, I guess he does okay versus Exist. I don't know. It doesn't seem that good in theory, but on In actuality, it seems like it's working out okay. 8-2 versus the 5-1, and he just seems to constantly be chipping away at exist. Lifestealer does fare better versus strength heroes than int heroes, and it definitely fares better versus melee heroes than range. So I like how they switch things up a little bit. But I mean, Storm would have done okay bottom too.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And with Storm Spirit in a tri-lane, we always worry about that experience. Of course, with Storm, if he gets picked off before level 6, things can be a little bit slow for him to get started, but I don't think he'll be under too much heavy pressure. That solo Bristleback shouldn't be able to kill him unless something really kooky happens, though that does tend to happen with Bristleback. People overcommit, think they can finish him off, and those last few quills do quite a bit of damage. I'm also curious about the build of Lifestealer here in the mid lane. If he's going to feel I guess a bottle on Lifestealer is just super silly. But kind of curious about how he's going to build for this mid lane presence.
I would say phase probably. He also needs to leech off exist. Like he's in that kind of low HP range where he can't actually like go up to harass exist that much because he could just get stunned and die to a potential gank. And looks like top lane Clockwork. I'm focusing way too much on this mid lane.
Well, it is interesting mid lane. That time I caught it. I saw CM roaming over on the minimap and was able to catch all of it. And just pretty classic Frostbite to start it off. As we mentioned, makes for a very easy pounce, Essence Shift, and he pounced kind of over the cogs as well. So as soon as Clockwork's cogged, Slark was stuck in there and with him, and that was not good news for Afterlife on that Clockwork. So made for a pretty easy kill, and this is where Slark really starts to shine. If he can grab a couple of kills early on, he should be in pretty good shape here. He's going to get stuck inside cogs, does have enough mana for a pounce to get away if need be, and is going to use a defensive pounce here as that battery assault damage starts to add up. I like Unicorn's opening build.
Can he pounce through
here.
Cogs?
Well, I think he kind of used it like he was pouncing, and then the cogs came out, so he kind of flew over them before they were on the field, kind of. It was sort of an odd timing. I don't know if the cogs are already down, if he can pounce into it. I want to say no, but we'll have to keep an eye out and see if he can do that. Because they should have enough range to knock you back, because pounce doesn't have that long of a range, but it might be possible if you time it perfectly.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's one of the other things about Slark that makes him so irritating. Not only the amount of aggression he has, but Pounce has a pretty solid escape mechanism. Hopping up and down the hills and stuff can make for easy getaways. So not only is he good at killing, but he can be pretty slippery to lock down as well.
Very, very slippery, especially versus long duration stuns like Potom Arrow and Alchemist Stun. You can just like face tank it and not really care about it. Although you don't want to tank that much damage if you can avoid it. Actually, Lifestealer going for that Treads build. So to max HP, I don't remember the last time I've seen Treads on Lifestealer, but that used to be the go-to build. It used to just be Treads Armlet all the time. Now it's Phase Drums or Phase Armlet all the time, or Phase Midas Armlet. So Phase is like the new go-to on Lifestealer, surprisingly. Or yeah, not surprisingly, I guess.
But surprising to see Treads here for sure. I guess feeling like he needs a little bit of a bigger HP buffer against the Dragon Knight, but I don't know. I'm still sort of trying to make sense of it, just putting Lifestealer in the mid. As you mentioned, I would have thought he'd be doing a little bit worse, but he's actually out farming Exist right now, 28-7 against the 25-3 Dragon Knight. Pretty even, but still, Lifestealer doing just fine. Now Exist, though, going to go Elder Dragon form. Will pop his Illusion Rune, and at the very least, going to be able to start chipping away at this tower, I think. So, level 6 mark, maybe.
It's very rare that Lifestealer doesn't have a good time in lane, though. So I'm still surprised to see them do so. Just because, like, a Dragon Knight with this much farm can do more than a Lifestealer at this point in the game. Just because, look at the pressure he's putting out right now on S7. He has a Quelling Blade to assist in last hitting, but the tower is taking so much damage, and S7 really can't do anything about it. And now that Exist has range form, the Lifestealer pick is not very useful, and they haven't had any heroes come and actually kill Exist when he was at that fairly low HP range.
Yeah, and this is that point, sort of like Storm Spirit. Once Dragon Knight gets those initial levels, and if he feels the need, grab some points in Dragon Blood, he gets so much more difficult to lock down. As we saw in the last game, a few opportunities where they tried to gank the Dragon Knight, then he pops the ult and ends up turning it around on him, which is definitely something to be worried about. But we'll see some aggression from Mouz as they come into the Radiant jungle. Chen's got a Centaur as well as a Hellbear leading the way, and Crit going to be right behind him. He did try to find some initiation on the Visage, but alas, Bulk did connect with a decent Impale. And, well, we'll harass back the supports that will survive for now. Now Lifestealer going to come in. He's going to rage straight away. Going to try and finish off Crit here. Infest will be enough to finish him off. And those Chen creeps are going to get taken out as well. Chen going to be in big trouble. Not sure that he's going to be able to survive this. Not enough mana for another Open Wounds. Not enough mana for an Impale. And alas, he will be able to walk away. But only because they're out of mana. So a bit of a failed gank there from Mouz. We'll get the first kill on the board for Flipside.
Flipside is not actually doing too poorly in this game, too. They're holding up pretty decently. Storm Spirit fairly farmed to almost level 7, going for the 113 build instead of the 131. That is slightly unusual. It's more efficient for your mana to get the damage, but sometimes you just need more pool. They stack the stuns right there.
Yep.
I still think Ace will die.
Ace going to be in big trouble. A noble effort there on the Spike Carapace from Bulk, perhaps hoping that a Quill Spray would come out. But
He needs a magic stick for sure.
Yep, but in the top lane, Slark getting very aggressive on the Clockwork and use that ulti right under the tower. Tower's not doing anything about it. Afterlife playing Ring Around the Rosie here, but Slark is going to be able to finish him off. Lifestealer does port in. I don't think he's going to be able to catch him.
If he had phase.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
Yeah, Slark does have treads of his own, so FaZe actually might have allowed him to set up that kill. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, he was a little bit slow to the TP too. Now Exist takes down a tower, so that was a very poor rotation by the Lifestealer. Even if he had gotten to Slark, I'm not sure if it's worth it. This is one thing about Dragon Knights too. He's not that strong at lane control, but if you ever leave your lane, he's going to take your tower, or at least do like half damage to your tower, or force out a glyph, which is pretty insane. But that is one benefit to his early game, to his rather weak early game, I'd say.
Yeah. He is going to grab the 8-minute rune here. Will be in invisibility as he heads back towards the mid and might be able to set up a kill onto the Lifestealer here. There's the Dragon Tail, the Breathe Fire. Easy kill coming out on S7. He had absolutely no clue, no vision on that top board. And that will be a free kill for the Dragon Knight on that high-value target.
Yeah, and it looks like Storm Spirit is rushing an Orchid to deal with a Slark, but I don't actually think that that's such a great idea, just because he's going to have like no HP. So if he gets stunned by Dragon Knight, which Dragon Knight is going to be looking to stun him, he's going to die. But it is useful if they want to play very aggressively with Storm Spirit ganks with a Lifestealer bomb, and I think they need to start making that happen. Also, if they shut down Slark, DK and Bristleback are just going to go bonkers too, so it's not the best item, and Orchid's not that great for Dragon Knight or Bristleback.
Yeah. Definitely going to be rough here. As you mentioned, Flipside are sort of holding their own here, but following that misplay there in the mid lane, we'll call it, with, well, Lifestealer getting taken out. Going to further the gold lead of Mouz now upwards of just about 5,000, just shy of that mark, 5,000 experience as well. So they've got a decent lead set up for themselves, and this Slark is ever so quickly becoming a force to be reckoned with. He does have an Oblivion Staff, so I think this is actually going to be an Orchid Slark build as well. Not one we've seen yet since he's been introduced into Captain's Mode, at least here on Beyond the Summit. So that's a little bit interesting. Yeah,
it's not a terribly uncommon build, though. Especially if you get Shadow Blade. Shadow Blade plus Orchid will allow you to pick off a lot of people, and especially with his new ultimate, you should almost always be able to escape.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess Orchid makes sense. It does work well on heroes that can initiate and do a good bit of burst damage. Lock him down. All the while in the bottom lane, though, Bristleback did get picked off again. That tri-lane going to have enough crowd control to finish off even the tanky Bristleback, and he will head back to the well. But all that while, up in the top lane, Mouz will take out that top tier 1 tower, and there's going to keep on keeping on. Elder Dragon form going to be on for a bit longer here, and yeah, they're just going to keep pushing. They're going to force Flipside to come back and try and defend. Flipside
will. Look at Clockwork, though. He might get a hook shot off on somebody important.
Yep.
Not if he runs that way.
Nice idea here to keep pushing, though. They will finish off the Visage, and they do defend their bottom tier 1 tower. Sometimes the best defense is a good offense. That's exactly what happened right here. Still chipping away at this tier 2 after the free kill on the Visage. Clockwork looking for an opportunity. He's cancel casting. Will use it on the Chen, but he's probably going to get turned around on here. Chen going to stand his ground for now. Nope, not going to be able to survive. But the rest of the fight transpiring on the other side of the tower, and Nyx Assassin is going to fall. So Mouz still finding the better of it. Chen in exchange for their Storm Spirit as well as Nyx Assassin. And they're still nearby and might be able to keep chipping away at this tower. Nope, there's
Flipside's decision making is just extremely questionable at this point in the game. Visage straight up TP'd in and died without anyone coming to help him, and he's not level 6 too, so his birds don't do anything. Secondly, Storm Spirit just got stunned by a DK that just walked up to him in range form and just stunned. That's all that happened to him. So they're like coming in one by one and just dying. There's really no other way to put it. So they either need to commit to a push on bottom, so they trade, albeit poorly. It's better than what happened, which is Mouz getting a T1, half a damage on the T2, and nothing in return, and 2 kills. So they need to commit one way or other. Hey, let's all defend this tower and give up this T1 on bottom, or hey, let's give up the defense and just push this T1. And they just weren't on the same page. You can't half-ass it when Mouz is as 4 there.
Yeah, Absolutely agree. I think it probably would have been better just to commit to this tier 1 for a little bit of gold pick-me-up. It is only 2-0 in tower count right now, but as we say many a time, when a team is behind, a break-even exchange is definitely in their favor just to get some extra gold onto the field.
7,500 gold behind.
Yes, yeah, jeez, it's quickly growing here. And with that successful team fight up in the top lane, Slark is now going to have his Orchid at a pretty early timing as well, about a 12-minute Orchid following those power treads, so definitely not too bad. And now Visage, well, will be under heavy assault. That Pounce not going to leash. Clockwork will hookshot over, actually connects with the Visage, so doesn't get that stun that they were hoping for. Lifestealer going to go toe-to-toe with the Bristleback. And it looks like Slark is going to fall. The support not going to be there. Ace going to survive for now as Exist comes in. Elder Dragon form going to be used. Dragon Tail on the Storm Spirit. He's going to fall. Crystal Maiden going to finish him off with that Frost Nova. Lifestealer going to get Frostbitten. No Rage. And he is going to go down. One of the Familiars falls as well. So this is just not what Flipside were looking for. A 2-for-1. Yeah, they finish off the Slark, but it costs them their Lifestealer and their Storm Spirit.
Slark shouldn't have even died there. He was in Invis in the cogs, and he got really greedy and decided to go for the Visage over here instead of just circling around back and then running home. He also could have pounced away, but he waited until the very last bit of his Shadow Dance was up to try and pounce out, and then he latched onto the Clockwork instead of actually pouncing, and then or leashed or whatever you want to call it, and then he died. So he could have just leaped anytime during a Shadow Dance except during the last 0.5 seconds, which he did, and then he also got one hit on the Visage during his Shadow Dance. So that should have been a 3-4-0 instead. But getting a Slark is pretty important. And now that Slark has Orchid, Storm Spirit is kind of boned. He can go in on Slark, but Slark will Orchid him back, and they will both die. Yeah. And Light, he's just gonna keep on dying for the rest of the game. It seems like.
Yeah, he's still not even close to that Orchid, and that's one of the problems when you go for Orchid first. If you lose that momentum, you don't have any survivability like you would if you were forced to go BKB first or something like that. So, absolutely right. And now an easy Roshan going to come out for Mouz. It looks like they are going to commit to the pit. And, well, it is scattered out by Clockwork, so Flipside know exactly what's going on, but I don't know if they can contest it. Visage Familiar, Singleton Familiar going to fly over. And it's just going to get killed. Poor Familiar.
Easy 100 gold.
Yeah, really. So Aegis going to go the way of Slark, no big surprise there. And I think there's a mech picked up. Chen is close to it. He's got those first two pieces. Yeah, there it is. Recipe going to be delivered. So even better for Mouz now. They've got that mech advantage, and in this early to mid-game team fight that they've got set up here, that mech really going to come in handy.
Yeah, Flipside, they have a very gank-oriented lineup, especially with the Nyx Assassin, but I haven't seen a Vendetta gank yet this game, and he just hit level 6 granted, but them hitting level 6 on their heroes, Visage hit level 6 right before that T1 engagement on bottom, so it's 13 and 14 minutes respectively. That is just way too late on these supports. Nyx Assassin can make things happen in the early game too, as can Visage, so with just one kill you can hit level 6 10 minutes time if you're efficient about where you move around the map, but the CM and the Chen are both level 9 too, so the experience graph very heavily in favor of Mouz. 10,000 there, gold graph around 12,000. Now with the Aegis, looks like they're going to want to push up the hill.
Yep, and they absolutely can. They knock down that tier 2 with nothing slowing them down. Glyph going to be used as they start knocking down that tier 3, but they've got plenty of creeps. They've got, what's this, a Tormentor here, they've got a Centaur, and they've also got that Wildling Ripper for a little bit of extra armor. And Nyx Assassin will fall to start off this fight, and Light going to get dropped shortly after. There will be a buyback from Nyx, though, coming out. Clockwork and a hookshot in. Will capture quite a few, but is the follow-up going to be there? That's the question. Slark actually taking a lot of damage here. He is going to go down. That'll burn the Aegis. But that's the only kill I think Flipside are going to find. Now Nyx going to have a dieback, it looks like. One more ought to do it. Yep, down he goes. Triple kill coming out for assist here, and they are thinking about diving these tier 4s to grab the Visage. Not going to be worth it. They'll turn and finish off the tier 3 in the racks. Going to be a quick game here, Merlini. I think Mouz are just about to seal the deal.
Yeah, it looks like it. That was just brutal. And I think Flipside was just too passive with a lot of their heroes. They got a kill or two on the Bristleback on bottom, but they really needed to shut down DK or get levels. They either need to get levels on the supports or get kills, and they didn't really get either of them. Not enough kills, at least, and they just fell a little bit too far behind. Now it's just much more experienced and efficient.
Yeah, and Clockwork in the off lane, it seemed kind of apparent he hasn't practiced too much against the Slark. That first kill was totally unexpected. Just, oh, wow, that was just a straight up 1 versus 1. And the subsequent kills after that. Yeah, GG, well played. Not surprised. Rough game for Flipside,
Poor
for sure.
Flipside. What's the over/under on number of wins they're going to get by the end of the season?
I don't know. Where are the stats posted? Is there an up-to-date table of the current standings?
You'd have to ask the admins.
I don't have access to
I'm
one.
the wrong person to ask.
Okay, all right. I have the schedule in every detail you could ever imagine, but I do not have the standings handy, so I'll have to find that. But yeah, I don't think Flipside are looking too good. So, that does complete our coverage today. Again, an odd day of coverage, but alas, we will be back tomorrow for day 15 coverage of Starladder Season 8 here on Beyond the Summit. We've got 5 good ones tomorrow, and let's see, what is it? We got Next versus QPad, Aspera versus Virtus Pro, Sigma versus Alliance for our 3rd match. That's going to be the big daddy tomorrow. QPad versus rox.kis, and then Poseidon versus Mouz, but Sigma versus Alliance, that will be very interesting. Alliance are... they're on sort of a mid-tier streak right now, and, well, Sigma are looking good, so Sigma could definitely give Alliance a run for their money. Could be a good one. But that does wrap up our coverage today. Looks like Alliance is playing on Dream League. That's what everyone's watching right now, so go enjoy yourselves, folks. Thank you for joining us here on Beyond the Summit. Again, I'm Zayori, with me is Merlini. That's it for us today. We'll see y'all bright and early tomorrow, Sunday, 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard.